So unfortunately, today Ayurveda is practiced where somebody is sick, then they want to go to an Ayurvedic doctor and say, hey, help me get rid of my disease. And sometimes in the process, they will understand that this is so much deeper than just getting rid of that a particular disease. Like the whole body has to heal. It's like the
Mm.
whole car goes for servicing. You don't just fix one part, right? Everything needs to be working.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Thrive State Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. V, triple board certified MD and performance and longevity expert. And on today's podcast, you know how I like to bring you holistic aspects of healing, of health, of longevity. And on this podcast, we go into the science of Ayurveda. It's one of these things that has been popularized by a lot of celebrities that are embracing alternative and holistic options for health. And so I wanted to give you the latest updates on what it is, but how to actually bring it to you in a more holistic manner. A lot of Ayurveda today is practiced much like Western medicine, where you get a symptom and you get some Ayurvedic herbs as a treatment option. But how do you bring it holistically? How do you actually treat the whole person and not just the symptom? That's a problem with Western medicine. Now, before we go into that, I want to welcome everybody into the Thrive State Podcast. If you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, engage with our content, because that's going to allow the show to grow and for us to be bringing you more awesome guests, as well as deepening our reach and our efforts here on giving you all the elements to get into the Thrive State. And as a huge thank you, I've created a Thrive State toolkit. I've put together worksheets, journal prompts on how to get into the Thrive States, how to master the 7 bioenergetic elements of sleep, nutrition, movement, our thoughts, our emotions, our community, and then finding our authentic selves and purpose. I've created a free toolkit for any of you to just dive into. Go to mythrivestate.com/toolkit to get it absolutely free. And for those of you who have been a loyal and returning guest, thank you so much for being a part of the growth, part of the journey, a part of making Thrive State a household name on really living our most authentic lives, our truest lives, because we know if we just show up as ourselves and did the things that most lit us up, not only is that our purpose, but it also drives the biology of human performance and longevity. Now, on to today's guest. She is actually somebody who was introduced to me by my publicist, Dana Lewis, and she is a renowned Ayurvedic doctor and the creator of a revolutionary new wellness program called the Cosmic Alignment Method. Growing up in a large Ayurvedic family and working with thousands of people as an Ayurvedic practitioner, our guest is dedicated her practice to making these ancient principles more accessible for the modern day. Her groundbreaking approach merges ancient wisdom with modern science, representing over 15 years dedicated to the practice of understanding Ayurvedic principles to help you unlock true happiness, wellness in all areas of life. If you are new to Ayurveda and you want to know some of these principles, but see how some of these principles can now be applied to more modern techniques, you may want to take a listen. This is going to be an extraordinary conversation. It is very rare that I meet somebody with a true passion. You could definitely see it in the energy she brings in today. So, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy this conversation with myself and Nidhi Pandya. Nidhi Pandya, welcome to the Thrive State Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You know, I always like to integrate the best as it pertains to wellness, healing, and longevity. And certainly there's stuff in the conventional space, but there's always ancient traditions. And we know more and more about Ayurveda as we're seeing so many celebrities do it. I'm going to dive in. But before we do, there's a portion of the show called The 5 to Thrive. I was just in Miami and I actually did this game show with them and they won the 5 to Thrive and I bought them lunch and I can't wait to buy you lunch.
Lovely.
If you get these 5 questions. So my question to you, Nidhi, is are you ready to play the 5 to Thrive?
Let's play it.
Question number 1 was, As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A teacher through and through.
Oh, wow. 1,000 points. Question number two. Question number two was, what is one of your favorite childhood memories?
I think my favorite childhood memories, I know it's bizarre as you say this, what comes to my mind is sitting in a circle with my sisters, eating mangoes in the summer without the whole mango, actually juicing it with our hands
Hmm.
and sucking it through the top opening. I would say that's my favorite childhood memory. Just took me there those summer days.
Oh, beautiful. I can't wait to tap into that a little bit more later. Question number three was, what one book, phrase, or quote where it entered your life and all of a sudden you saw the world different?
So the book, or is
A
it
book, a quote, an author, an idea?
yeah. So I would say Khalil Gibran's Prophet. I was in high school and I think it changed my world forever. And I think specifically, when he talks about giving and he says, the rose is the scent, it does not give out the scent.
Uh, the rose is the scent, it doesn't give out the scent.
As in that you're not separate from what you give. So if what you give has to be disconnected from who you are, then that's not the kind of giving you want to give. That's very
Yeah.
egocentric giving.
Yes. And I can't wait to tap into that a little bit more because it has a little bit to do with my philosophy on longevity as well. Okay. Question number four. You're doing great, by the way.
Oh,
Is
wow,
I'm very interested in knowing this because you don't seem like a karaokeer. I'm a ham. I love karaoke. But if we were to put you on stage in front of 100,000 people and I gave you a mic and you had to sing a song, which song would you pick?
These days, and I probably get the lyrics completely wrong, but because my daughters have been listening to Down Bad and Taylor Swift's new album, I've been humming that all day long. So if you gave it to me right now, that's what I would end up singing.
Oh, beautiful. I have a daughter who, I have two daughters, both are into Taylor Swift, and one's only three. Uh,
Oh my God.
and the last question for you is, what is your favorite way if you're having sort of like a stressful day that you use to center yourself?
Oh, now that's a tough one just because there's so many, but I think in the moment, I have things that I do in the moment. There's things that I do like while I'm on the battlefield and when I'm off the battlefield. If I'm on the battlefield and I need to center myself, I will ground my feet. I'll just notice where they touch. I'll get into my breath. When I'm off the battlefield, I'll take a shower.
Oh, so you take your shower. Is it a cold shower or a hot shower that calms you down?
It depends whether the situation was cold and that's why it made me uncomfortable, or the situation was too heated and that's why it made me uncomfortable.
Oh, okay. Well, wow. Five to thrive, 5,000 points. You win, which means the next time that we meet, and because we share a beautiful publicist together, Dana Lewis Productions, I just wanted to give her a shout out. She's the best. Anyone looking for any type of representation, go check out Dana Lewis PR.
Right.
But because we share one, there's probably a very high likelihood that we could meet at some point. And so meal is on me, and I can't wait to learn a little bit more about Ayurveda and the foods that are promoted. But before we get into that, tell me a little bit about, you mentioned sisters. How big was your family growing up?
I grew up in a large joint family, 14 members living under one roof. And the roof wasn't too wide, let me just say that. So 5 bedrooms, 14 members.
Wow, that's amazing. We had a one-bedroom apartment. I remember sharing it with my uncles as well. So this
Oh,
is
wow.
a blended family.
Yes, basically 3 brothers who got their 3 wives. Everybody had children, a grandfather.
Oh, wow. And that memory of just the simple things in life, of sharing a mango, juicing it, and then being able to taste it, really just demonstrates how keen we are to our emotions, to be able to remember joy with our senses, and that innate intuition of just tapping into senses and experiences that is, innate to probably any child that leaves these lasting memories. Yeah.
That's it. I mean, you absolutely said it. I always believe I said, you remember what you feel. If you've not felt it, you won't remember it. And so and we forget as adults, we're trying so hard to memorize and grasp information. So that's absolutely correct. If you feel anything you can feel, you can remember.
And that's something I would love to tap into because, one of the things I speak on more now in sort of the new techie age is the things that you feel is really a living and breathing gauge of the biochemical symphony that's going on inside your body. The state of your nervous system controls everything. And so being able to tap into feeling, that's real information. And I wonder what Ayurveda has to say about, tuning into our feelings. Now, I'm gonna circle back into that because I want to know how you actually got into Ayurveda. What
Yeah.
was going on in your life? And certainly I know you're from an Indian background and the roots of Ayurveda is from India. How did you step into it, first of all? And then, after that we'll talk about kind of Ayurveda as a whole.
Right. So I think I stepped into Ayurveda. I was meant to. I was raised in a joint family, as we spoke about, and my grandfather was an Ayurvedic healer. And I would say Ayurveda was given to me like a first language. I didn't know that I was learning it because in your first language, you just learn it. And it wasn't, Ayurveda says this, Ayurveda said that it was actually passed on to me through, simple ideas like, hey, don't, come back before sunsets, before you see the bats weaving through the sky, so come back home before that for dinner. So I kind of understood the rhythms of the universe. I understood bio individuality, statements like, for example, a sister of mine, and they would say, hey, Ruchi, your body is already too hot, so you be careful when you go out there in the sun. So I learned to make these connections as a young girl. I was very curious, and I always try to see patterns and patterns that told me what makes people sick and what makes people tick. And as it was just very natural for me to get into Ayurveda as that time came to choose a career path. I mean, I just would not even think of anything else. But that being said, when I did become an Ayurvedic doctor and I started practicing Ayurveda, I was quite unhappy with the state of Ayurveda and the way it was being practiced. It had become very, very prescriptive. It had become very similar to modern medicine. Nothing wrong with it, but it was just that was not the Ayurveda that I was taught. It was very it's people would come to me and try and get solutions to their problems, and I would write prescriptions, which was very disconnected from the Ayurveda that I had learned, which was just like a first language, how you breathe. It's just so natural.
Yeah. So it really sounds like where Ayurveda has been was a symptom thing, and then you maybe gave it some herbs versus really intuitively understanding what's happening in the body, where the harmony is. Now, before we get in a little bit deeper, can you explain to the general public who's never heard about Ayurveda before exactly what it is, what its philosophies are, and I guess like the different treatment philosophies that are there?
Right. So the word Ayurveda literally translates into the science of life. And that's what Ayurveda is. I've definitely heard Ayurveda being introduced as Indian medicine, an ancient system. It's none of that, right? It's timeless. There's nothing ancient about it. Gravity is not ancient. Gravity is a principle and it's not ancient. It'll never be ancient. Similarly, the principles of Ayurveda are just how we operate on this planet, how we interact with everything around it, the sun, the moon, with the food we eat, with the breath we have. So if it has to do with life, it has to do with Ayurveda. Parts of Ayurveda which have become the most popular to the world out there today is understanding that everybody has a different makeup because we all do. We all have different needs and, the internals of how that would look like, uh, diet and herbs. And so basically nutrition, herbs, medicine, Ayurvedic medicine in terms of how do you treat and understand diseases. So skincare, hair care, that's what's made Ayurveda popular in the West, practices like oil pulling, etc. But really, that's Ayurveda has if it has to do with life, it like Ayurveda will tell you how to understand it, how to process it. So Ayurveda is a complete science of life, including social relationships, just everything.
It almost sounds like to me, I almost sort of like try to explain things through different type of energies that are happening in the body. And it really sounds like, Ayurveda is a really true understanding that energy is life and life is energy. And whenever you have energy come in, it's going to affect the system in a certain way, changing up its energy and changing different ecosystems. And therefore, understanding energy and the flow of everything is therefore how it's used to explain life and health and disease and relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. And I said, how do you see energy in matter? You see energy in matter through its patterns. When something is inanimate, it does not have a pattern, you cannot see the energy. But when you see things shift, then you see an energetic pattern. So Ayurveda is all about understanding those patterns to understand the energy behind something.
Mm, I see. So diving in a little bit further now, I remember in Chinese traditions, and it's now I realize that maybe, the Chinese that had probably learned these philosophies from India. I remember there's a word in Cantonese called yeet hay, which means kind of like there's a lot of heat to that type of food. And we understand these different phrases that we hear in Ayurveda. Can you explain to the, novice listener these different states of heats? And I don't even know what some of these other ones are, but what exactly those things mean? And how does it guide an Ayurvedic practitioner to the treatment options once, these states are reached?
Right. So there are two things that I'd like to say here, if you don't mind, right? So the first thing is that, firstly, I think all, you talked about traditional Chinese medicine having a similar understanding. I actually do believe that every tradition, when they were in tune with the understanding of nature of foods, they understood this. So, I wouldn't think that a tradition learned it from another, because it's just very innate. It's just like how every baby is born knowing that it needs to eat from its mother's breast, does not need a nutritionist expert. So as long as you're tuned into the needs, your foods, your cycles. So I think plenty of traditions actually knew this. It's just that a lot of Ayurveda literature has been retained, and that's why, and some TCM, traditional Chinese medicine literature, has been retained. But basically, it's understanding. And today, the way, let me tell you how it's explained today. Today, the way Ayurveda has been explained, which I'm actually moving away from myself, but I'll still do it, is that there are three types of people, and there are three types. Everything has either one of the three qualities. And one of the qualities, so things could have either a building quality, either a heating quality, or a depleting quality.
What was the first one again?
Building,
heat, and
depletion.
depletion. Okay.
So the term that's used is dosha, right? So if your body, for example, has a tendency to build, then you can say that you are kapha dosha dominant, right? Means when I say build, is like if you eat food, two people eat the same amount of food, one person builds a little bit more. And those who have the tendency to build, they basically, their bodies will be slower, they'll be a little bit more sluggish, everything, So their body is building, their mind is building. And certain foods have the same qualities. For example, if you eat a lot of cheese, that has a building quality. So you kind of understand people and their dynamics and how their bodies function. You understand foods so that when you're making choices, you understand what will serve you, what will not. The second one, which is called pitta dosha, is basically your body just goes into transformation. So if you have a thought, you will transform it quickly. You eat your food, it will digest quickly. You will go to the sun, you will tan quickly. You may even sunburn, you will respond to anything you will go into that state of transformation much quicker in your body. There are certain foods that do that. Vinegar, spicy foods, fermented foods, they kind of push that spectrum of heat. So when we talked about heat and that, it's basically when you're in this side of things, there are certain foods which will add to transformation. If your body is already too hot, it's already what we call inflamed, it's already imbalanced, then you're basically going to be pushed off and, you're going to create more imbalance. And then the last one is depleting. There are foods that are depleting. There are bodies that basically can't hold on to any nourishment, can't hold on to any nutrition. Sometimes because we are overworked, we haven't slept. So, ideally, you want to be doing all three, right? So everybody does it. You're building cells all the time. Things are transforming your food, your breath, things in cells, mitochondria is always, so the transformation is always happening.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you are, I just wanted to let you know, join our community. There's so many free resources and a great community of people that desire health, happiness, human potential, to have more in their life, more health, more energy. And when you have those two things together, you could create more happiness, more abundance, whether it be financial, romantic, all these things in your life. And if you're just starting out, you don't know where to go, just sign up for thrivestatestarter.com, because in there you're going to get a bundle of information that includes a longevity ebook, a longevity and performance resource guide, lecture notes that come from my keynotes at Google, at Fortune 500 companies, all the insights in that keynote in lecture slide form given to you. And then finally, breathwork. I share 3 powerful breathwork exercises to access calm, which really gives you clarity and peace during the day, to access energy if you need to wake up and really motivate yourself, and finally a breathwork routine that you could do every single morning so that you could be very intentional with how you create that day. You can find all this stuff delivered free to your inbox at thrivestatestarter.com. And our community is growing. If you want to be a part of a community of people that desire the Thrive State, that are really in Thrive State themselves and help other people along with that, you could be a part of the community. You can get group coaching from me. We do breathwork sessions, meditation sessions, and you also get to drop in and participate in podcasts in the future. You could find more about the community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. So check out those resources. You're not going to be disappointed. And please enjoy the remainder of this podcast.
And the third one is depreciation, decline. Whatever your body doesn't need, it throws out. So all 3 need to happen at an appropriate rate. When they don't happen at an appropriate rate, you enter into what's called disease. And you also look at foods. You look at all your interactions in the world, saying, is this a building interaction? Is this building consumption? Is this heating consumption, which is going to set off transformation? Or is this going to take me into depreciation, depletion, etc.? So that's how you understand who you are, and you understand how you interact with the qualities of the world. And that basically summarizes how Ayurveda is practiced.
You know, in Western medicine, people would have a symptom, they would go to a doctor for it, and, you know, without digging in too far, they might have a pill or something and you know, be over it. But it's very sort of symptom-centric driven type of approach, not necessarily a holistic lifestyle. Now, in terms of Ayurvedic practices, do you find it more of a lifestyle that people should understand as a whole to approach life with? Or, you know, is it similar where, you know, somebody has dealing with a health issue, will come in for a one-time Ayurvedic type of treatment? How do you look at how Ayurveda approaches life and health and symptoms?
So unfortunately, today Ayurveda is practiced where somebody's sick, then they want to go to an Ayurvedic doctor and say, hey, you know, help me get rid of my disease. And sometimes in the process, they will understand that this is so much deeper than just getting rid of that a particular disease. Like the whole body has to heal. It's like the whole car goes for servicing. You don't just fix one part, right? Everything needs to be working. But the way I teach Ayurveda, and more and more and more, is to really understand your body. What I called, I have my own method called the inner climate method, where I teach people how to understand their inner climate. So once you understand your inner climate, you know how to support it. It's like once you know the weather, let's say you're traveling, you know the weather, you know the climate of a place that you're going to, you know how to dress for it, you know how to pack for it. So similarly, once you do that, then it comes into your lifestyle, it comes into your food choices, it comes into your exercise choices, your sleep choices, your social choices, your career choices. So understanding your climate can be extremely beneficial. That's how I personally advocate for Ayurveda. But unfortunately, too many times people just, you treat it like an a la carte menu. Take a practice here, take a recommendation there, take a herb here, and call it an Ayurvedic practice.
Yeah. And I know you have something that is launching, the cosmic alignment method. And certainly I think understanding your inner climate is going to be a part of that. Can you explain what this cosmic alignment, process is all about in this program that you're starting?
Absolutely. So it is inspired by Ayurveda. And the reason why I say it's inspired by Ayurveda is because I don't want people to get lost in the Ayurvedic jargon, because it is basically bringing people back to what their body already knows through 3 governing principles. So of course, all of this is rooted in Ayurveda. It's all inspired by Ayurveda. But it's saying that, hey, like I said, animals know, like deer know that they're plant-based. They do not have to put their mind to knowing. tigers, I say, don't get carried away with like, let's wake up early in the morning. It's supposed to be good for my health. I mean, tigers know they're nocturnal. We at birth know what we're meant to eat. And so somewhere in the way we've forgotten, but our body still knows. So it is a method which says that these are three governing principles. Once you understand them, these three guiding principles can take you back home to yourself. And you reclaim your power when it comes to your health and your wellness and your well-being. Instead of seeking information, now you have the wisdom, right? So our current approach is we're always information. Give me more, give me more, give me Google, give me a book, give me whatever. But the truth is there's wisdom. But because we've been so disconnected, now we need tools. So these three governing principles, one of which is the inner climate method, become tools for you to find that expertise, to awaken your cellular intelligence, and to live life with ease. We have already launched the method. I have worked for 5 months. So we work month after month. We've already had, 5 batches, 5 cohorts. And the results have far exceeded our expectations. And this is exactly what we hear from people at the end of it. Finally, I have an answer. Like, I feel confident in my ability to make decisions. I found my true north. So it's basically that, that everybody has the power to reclaim their power.
That is so good. I mean, this is really the philosophy and I think, at the end of the day, we might just be, changing up the words and how we approach the very, very same essence that, our true essence has been dictated to us. And certainly as children, we're the closest to understanding who we are and what we're meant to be in the world. And unfortunately, we tend to forget ourselves because the world tells us how it needs to be and potentially how we need to be. Can you talk to us about the process of potentially forgetting who we are, why that happens, and how that leads to dis-ease?
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, I think that because, when we're born and we're babies, we're very closely connected to our intuition.
Yeah.
And as we start using our intellectual mind, I mean, it's really funny, right? Like, it's our mind which makes us the most evolved species, but at the same time, it is what takes us away from what our primitive senses actually know. So as we kind of get into that whole thinking mode, we start forgetting. And then we start getting conditioned to think a certain way, to live a certain way, and we stop connecting to our heart and what we know. And then, like the one thing that I see repeatedly in my work, in my practice that I see is that we end up saying shut up to our dis-ease, as we go along life. Because, oh, I'm not supposed to feel this way. Oh, that's fine. I'll just take a painkiller. That's okay. Because we're always trying to show up for the world outside, show up in the world outside. And over a period of time, that forgetting what your inner world knows, that lack of ease becomes disease.
Yes.
So saying shut up to the lack of ease, to show up, to impress the world, to impress yourself, to like fulfill something outside is unfortunately what leads to disease. And then we just have to find our way back. And my cosmic alignment method through the inner climate and the 3 other principles basically brings you back to who you are.
So beautiful. I mean, we are so aligned in our philosophies and, truly feel the purpose and why you approach healing in this way. For anyone who, hasn't necessarily ready to dive in deep, for anybody who just sort of wants to have a taste of maybe what some Ayurvedic practices or philosophies that are doing, are there any, practical either techniques or tools that you can offer to people that's like a little Ayurvedic hack that, anyone could try?
So I'm very tempted to talk about, popular practices, but I'm not going to, if that's okay with you.
No, I don't know.
I wanna, because you can find that on Google, and then you'll find another practice, and then that'll be replaced by a third practice, right? I'd rather just plant a seed for something that's going to make everlasting change. That's what I'd rather do. So can we do this together? I would like to talk about the inner climate method, and that's a seed that I'd like to plant, and then people can just okay, amazing. So then let's do this. Dr. Vuu, can you do me a favor? Can you just cup your palm? And anybody who's listening to this, I'll ask you to do the same thing. Can you exhale into it a few times?
Okay.
Okay. Can you tell me how that felt? Like what was that warm? Was that cold?
It was warm.
Okay. Was that dry or
No, it was moist.
that was moist? All right. Okay, great. What is our blood?
Say again.
What is our blood? Mammals, our blood is warm.
Yes. Okay.
The mother's milk, and I'm bringing you to it, right? Like I like to let people arrive at it and not tell them because
Got it.
that's
Yeah.
my whole philosophy is you arrive at things. The mother's milk is
Warm.
warm
Yeah.
and it's moist. Our blood is warm and moist. Where do things grow the best in the world? Like let's think Florida in March. It's
Warm and moist.
warm and moist. Our reproductive fluids, warm and moist, right? They talk about the probiotic environment, which was the flora and fauna. And we know, again, flora and fauna grows in warm and moist. What kind of people do you like? Warm,
Uh,
hot-tempered, cold?
well, I'm with somebody that's definitely on the warm side.
Yeah. So you like your interactions to be warm. I mean,
Yeah.
hot-tempered people they burn
Yeah.
everything out. If they're
Mhm.
cold, it goes nowhere, right? When we enter a room, if it's cold, we're uncomfortable. If it's hot, we're uncomfortable. If it's dry, we're uncomfortable. If it's humid, we're uncomfortable. Everywhere in the world, we gravitate. The inner climate of the body is warm and moist. That's the optimal inner climate. When that climate, I mean, the idea is this, right? When the climate is right, life emerged on our planet. 4.5 billion years ago, in this entire Milky Way, this was this little Earth, this little speck where life emerged because the climate was right.
Mhm.
Similarly, in our body, they talk about microbiome, they talk about when the climate is right, when you can maintain that warmth and moisture in your body. And of course, there are systematic tools. How do you eat? How do you live to maintain that warmth and moisture? That is when you heal from disease in a natural manner. All disease is a deviation, like, for example, inflammation, right? It's not a coincidence that the world outside is experiencing global warming and the world inside is experiencing inflammation. We have the same problem outside and inside, right? So that's when the body has gone from warm and moist to like hot and humid. So all diseases can be classified into climate change.
Mhm.
So and we want to come back to warm and moist, just as we want to come back to warm and moist, right? The basic principle of Ayurveda is as is the universe, such is the human body, as is the human body, such is the universe. So that basically tells you all the patterns, and I see it all the time. So that's what's happening in the world outside. So basically, it's like where the sun and moon do their job, right? That's warm and moist. The sun comes, it will heat up and dry everything. As the moon, as we face the moon, things kind of become cool and moist. The center point is warm and moist, where the sun and moon are balanced. So the only seed that I want to plant here is, you really want to start living Ayurvedically, ask ourselves, like, where have you gone more solar in your life? So which means where, as human beings, we've gone solar, right? There's a reason why inflammation, too much caffeine. What does the sun do firstly? It heats up, it dries up. That's how it takes you from warm and moist away. It's hot and dry, right? That's what the sun does. Similarly, caffeine, alcohol, overproductivity, overstressing,
Mm.
all of those things. So I just tell people that make sure that you're balancing your solar with your lunar, that there is enough rest and recovery because we put so much merit into using our bodies, into doing that we've forgotten about being. And that warm and moist is a place where there is a balance between the doing and the being. And we can bring it in our foods, we can bring it in our thoughts, we can bring it in our actions. And each one of these is, of course, a unique tool. And I work with people to teach them how they can bring it across the board. It's like gratitude and compassion are warm and moist. Even in terms of emotion, it's the same exact. Anger is hot, anxiety can feel dry. So it's the same principle and it's across the board. And that's just a seed that I want to plant in anybody's mind that who's listening.
Wow. And I can certainly tell from your passion that if you want to grow the seed, definitely seek out yourself and your work. So how do people find out more about you, more information about where you are online? And if they were interested in joining you for your cosmic alignment method, how do they reach you for that?
Absolutely. So I think one of the best places to follow me is my Instagram. Where you follow my work, you understand my philosophy, which is my _Ayurvedic_life. You can also find me on my website, nidhi.me, very simple, NIDHI.me. And then and you'll see where the journey takes you.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I'm really excited to ask this last question because I'm interested in understanding, certainly from a health practitioner, that has so many resources to them that's out there. But for you in your life, what has been your best medicine?
Coming back to warm and moist.
Mm.
Honestly, coming back. I know that when I'm in the state of flow, it's that state of warm and moist. I feel it. And it's anxiety, it's too hot and dry. When it's inertia, it's too sluggish. Warm and moist is perfect flow. So I just need to come back to that, and then life flows through me.
Beautiful. Reminding us all that we are our best medicine. Nidhi, it was such a pleasure connecting with you today, and I learned so much. And just from your radiance, your passion, I could tell you are warm and moist when you talk about
Maybe a little hot, maybe a little hot. I need a little recovery, but no, I'm kidding. No, thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on the Thrive Fit podcast.
All right.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Thrive State podcast. And if you're finding that this content is really helping you and your family members, please consider supporting our mission and our cause of elevating health, happiness, and human potential for people all over the world. You can do so by making sure that you subscribe to this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family members, and leaving us a 5-star review wherever podcasts are heard. All these things are going to really help elevate the show and to give us the resources to continue to bring more content just like this to yourself as well as the people that you love. If you haven't already, you might want to consider joining our community. We actually have a community where people get to engage with me in group sessions where we do breathwork, meditation, where we do challenges together, really to be able to get us access to health, happiness, human potential, so that we could have longevity and performance in our life as well. You can check out our community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. And if you haven't already, pick up a copy of my book, Thrive State. It really gives you all the tools, the pillars that you need to create a blueprint to control the energetics of your life. Who are you? How you show up in the world? The choices that you consistently make create an energy in your body, and you can control this. And when you can control that, you also control the messages you give to your DNA that gives you access, again, to optimal health, longevity, and peak performance. And let me also just share a free gift to you. If you haven't already, please pick up my longevity and performance bundle where I share lecture notes, ebooks, breathwork exercises, and longevity and performance resources at thrivestatestarter.com. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thank you for helping us grow. Remember always, my friends, that you are your best medicine.